May could very well be the month everything changes in the crypto space, and I want to explain why. But first, let's take a step back and talk about what's currently happening and how close we are to a much bigger breakout. I'm not just talking about Bitcoin hitting $100, 000. I'm talking about it reaching over $150, 000, and the massive shift that will trigger BQual across the entire market. And if you think this momentum only benefits Bitcoin, think again, because while Bitcoin climbs, its dominance is likely to drop, opening the door to one of the biggest altcoin seasons we've ever witnessed. Before we get into that, I want to welcome everyone to the channel. My name is Nick, and if you're new here, I can guarantee you'll be subscribing by the end of this video. Don't forget to check out the free Discord link below. There are tons of great ideas shared there daily. And for those who want more, the paid group offers weekly reports and updates that can give you an edge in this fast-moving market. Now, let's talk about this incredible wave of green gains we've been seeing. It's been a mostly bullish week, with just a few red spots here and there, and overall, the market is radiating positivity. Historically, when Bitcoin gains strength like this, altcoins tend to lag behind, especially those outside the top, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you look at the broader altcoin market, it hasn't moved much since mid-2023, although we did see a brief surge in late 2023. Market dominance for altcoins rose from around 28.7% in November to about 33.1% in December. That small but powerful increase had a dramatic impact. XRP surged from under $0.50 to $3.40, and HBR rocketed from below $0.05 to over $0.30. It's clear that even a modest rise in altcoin dominance can have explosive consequences. So just imagine what could happen if dominance pushes to 50% or beyond this cycle, and I strongly believe it will. In fact, looking at previous cycles like 2017, 2018, we saw dominance for altcoins reach as high as 53.1%, and even in 2021, we hovered between 37% and 41% during the height of alt season. This time around, there are far more viable altcoins with real-world use cases and strong communities, and I expect to see XRP rise rapidly in both value and recognition, possibly even overtaking Ethereum at some point. That might sound wild to some, but it's not unrealistic if you're paying attention to the utility-driven momentum across the space. I'm also keeping an eye on other fundamentally strong altcoins like HBAR, XLM, QNT, Algo, and more projects that are solving real problems and have meaningful utility. If altcoin market dominance climbs even another 10% from current levels, which hover between 31% and 33%, many of these coins could increase in value 5-10x, and by ND. In the case of low-cap gems, even 30-50x gains aren't off the table. As for XRP specifically, the chart looks promising. Both the lows and highs are consistently climbing. There was a recent failed breakout attempt, but it's hovering near a crucial resistance level. Once it flips that level around $0.70 or $0.72 holds and pushes upward, the next logical target will be in the $2.04 to $2.57 range. That's the move we're watching for on this time frame, as we want to continue setting higher highs and higher lows. Meanwhile, my focus remains on Bitcoin too, as it's still the most important piece of the puzzle. There are multiple factors lining up that could send Bitcoin skyrocketing, and when that happens, the altcoin market won't just follow it, will explode. Do you think we're at the edge of the next big crypto shift? When we talk about May in the context of the markets, especially crypto, we're really zeroing in on what the Federal Reserve might do because everything seems to revolve around that. I recently came across an insightful post on X that was accompanied by a bar chart, and it made the case that, believe it or not, if history repeats itself, this could actually be quite bullish for crypto. What's interesting is that certain warning signs are emerging. Again, U.S. banks are showing weakness similar to early 2023. For the first time since March of that year, U.S. banks just formed a death cross, and while we can't say for sure whether this will lead to another round of failures, even a significant sell-off in banking stocks could be enough to trigger strong upward momentum in Bitcoin. Looking back to March 2023, the pattern was clear. Banks began collapsing around March 10th, and although panic was widespread, Bitcoin actually bottomed out on that exact day. Everyone was expecting a huge drop by Monday, but in reality, Bitcoin surged over the weekend. From that low point on March 10th to the end of the Monday candle, Bitcoin was already up by around 26%. And it didn't stop there. It kept climbing steadily through the spring until it started to dip in late April, only to bounce back again in June and then move mostly sideways as the market waited for a catalyst. That catalyst eventually came in the form of ETF discussions in October and November, which reignited a rally. The takeaway here is that the banking crisis, particularly from March through May, was a key driver of Bitcoin's movement. If a similar banking weakness appears again, even without actual failures, it could push Bitcoin upward. Now, I don't think this is the only reason Bitcoin could rally. It's already moving in a technically strong pattern, with higher highs and higher lows forming on shorter time frames, and the overall setup still looks bullish. There's a fair value gap between $88K and $90.7K, and ideally, we want to stay above the upper boundary of that range. Realistically, as long as Bitcoin holds above $87.5K, things should be fine. The most critical level I'm watching is the resistance around $95K, which marked a high earlier in March. If we can break through that, the next logical targets are $100K and $110K, both of which carry psychological and technical significance. Once we're through those levels, I think $150K could come faster than people expect. Why? Because if you study past market behavior, especially from the September to November rally, there's a repeating pattern of pullbacks, consolidation, and then explosive upward moves. Even if we briefly dip to close any remaining fair value gaps, that would just mirror earlier patterns where Bitcoin retraced slightly before pushing higher. What I'm most focused on now is the momentum behind these moves and whether we're repeating one of those explosive phases where Bitcoin cuts through resistance quickly and confidently, just like before.